First we have Lydmila, journalist. So maybe tell us more about the experience and how is Ukraine after almost 2 years.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank for Geopost for inviting me and my Ukrainian colleagues for this important and necessary conversation. We Ukrainians, like no other, are feeling the impact of the Russian propaganda and narratives in our life. However, not only Ukrainians. I have relatives in Russia. One of them very often came to Ukraine before the war. He ate Ukrainian food, drank Ukrainian wine, and even got married a Ukrainian woman. Now he wants to kill us. No, he was a very cute person and very amazing specialist, but he just reads Russian newspapers and watches Russian TV. Propaganda works there from the morning till night. This is very toxic and powerful. Chief European Union diplomat Joseph Borrell drew attention on this in his recent speech. He said, one of the most significant threats of our time is not a bomb who can kill you, but a poison that can colonize your mind. For example, my daughter lives in Vladyslav. Last year I went to my daughter and remember one interesting conversation. One Slovak man asked for me, for my daughter, where are you from, blah, blah, blah. And I answered, I am from Ukraine. And here, in response, so you are a Nazi? And your president is also a Nazi? This Slovak man repeats one of the most dangerous messages of Russian propaganda. Unfortunately, this situation is typical not only for Slovakia, but in Poland now, in Germany, in Austria, and others. Elections in Slovakia were held last year, and pro-Russian politician won there. Now he is blocking aid to Ukraine from the European Union. Political analysts believe that such election results are a result of the impact of Russian propaganda. This year there will be elections in the European Parliament, as well as elections in the Great Britain, Austria, Germany, USA, Moldova, and other countries. And Russia will seek to influence their results at any cost. That's why the European Parliament adopted a resolution against Russian propaganda before the elections in the European Union. But as for me, it's too late. We know that war always begins long before hostilities begin. De facto, Russia's hybrid war against Ukraine started in the 19th. Fakes and disinformation are an important part of this war. De facto, the illegal annexation of Crimea and the occupation of Donbass in 2014 became a logical continuation. Russian propaganda denies the existence of Ukrainians. It's a favorite mantra of Putin, who says Ukraine is an artificial state created by Lenin and Stalin. For many years, Russia promoted this message in their media and used it to start the war in Ukraine. It is necessary to understand that Russian propaganda came to Ukraine before Russian tanks. For a long time, she lived in Ukrainian TV channels owned by pro-Russian oligarchs. We could buy Ukrainian books, we could buy Russian books and watch Russian movies and listen to Russian music a lot. And only before the full-scale invasion, our government stopped it. But even today, Russia is doing everything possible to that Ukrainians look at the world through its eyes. Propagandists are a tool of the Kremlin. These are journalists, bloggers, even artists. These persons such as Skaberieva, Solovyov, Synelnyk, and others attack millions of people their aggressive messages every day. They surpassed even Goebbels, who did the same during the Second World War in their fascist Germany. They hate Ukraine, they hate West, they called Europe Europe. At the same time, they have expensive cars, real estate in Europe and other European countries. These persons call for the killing of Ukrainians and justify genocide. For example, the host of the state-run Russian TV channel Anton Krasovsky, he called for Ukrainian children to be drowned in the Pristina river and burned in their houses. Very awful. Russian propaganda dehumanizes Ukrainians. She portrays them as violent maniacs, terrorists, fascists. The more ridiculous the lie, the more people will believe. For example, 10 years ago, when the war in Ukraine started in Donbass, the Russian media shouted hysterically about crucified boy. It was a very sad and emotional story about violence of the Ukrainian forces who killed a little boy and his mom. But it's interesting detail. No one has ever seen this crucified boy. It did not exist. This story was invented in the Kremlin, including other fakes, that the Maidan provoked Russia to war, that Russia is not a war with Ukraine but with NATO. The war in Ukraine is called a special military operation, and different media in Europe and other countries share this message. They say that the beginning of a full-scale invasion is called a forced measure. The forced deportation of Ukrainians to Russia is called an evacuation. The kidnapping of Ukrainian children is called a trip to a health camp. So, who are terrorists? Thank you.
Tatyana, also a journalist from Ukraine. So, how do you see Ukraine now after 2 years of the terrible war that was you as a journalist?
Thank you so much. I would like to tell you a little bit about disinformation in the military field. All of us know that Russia attacked first to defend, but in reality to kill and to lie. Ukraine is reminding the country that very often falls a victim to disinformation and fakes. And it is an example of Kremenchuk, my native city, from which I moved to Kosovo, where I'm working like a journalist for more than 5 years. I want to tell you simple examples. For example, it should be noted that a few years before Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Putin propagandist Dmitry Kiselov frightened zombie Russians with Svetlovodsk divers and snipers. The training is taking place in the Kremenchuk Reservoir in Poltava region, and a special training group of divers and snipers will be equipped in Svetlovodsk, Kirovograd region. Later, the British also joined these trainings. A video on one of the Russia's TV says such information. In other words, the narrative that Russia attacked first to defend against Ukrainians' attack has been working out of for a long time before big war. And however, I would like to note that no training, as mentioned, and propagandist program, no conducted in the Kremenchuk Reservoir. In addition, the video used footage of a completely different place. And another example, I want to tell you about amazing Ukrainian people, about volunteers that help and doing everything for Ukrainian army. And for example, in my city, like in other Ukrainian cities, we have volunteers formation that are preparing to defend native land. They teach civilian people. And there are public organizations that conduct first aid classes and teach how to handle and how to use weapons and other useful skills. Such formation began operation from the first day of full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And recently, however, a video of an allegedly Ukrainian military state has been circulating on Facebook, X Twitter, and TikTok. It shows two soldiers in camouflage pulling a mannequin behind a tree, while a woman in green vest is following them and taking picture of one of the users who shared the video wrote, "Hollywood in Ukraine. It would have been nice if the woman in green vest had left the frame when they were filming the scene." It's a fake. In fact, the video shows my friend, also the volunteer who is in such training, as I mentioned before. And Detector Media, an organization that researches the media space, writes, the video is captioned as follows: "It is better to test yourself and really evaluate your stretch during training task. Basic military training of civilians by NGO number 12. So the video captures the moment of civilian training. In this way, the agitation and propaganda promote the message that Russia is not committing any war crimes and that Ukraine is lying and filming productions to discredit. The Russians are trying to absolve themselves of responsibility for war crimes and saying that they are not killing Ukrainians and that Ukraine is staging the events. And everyone knows that Russia covers up its crimes with lies and manipulation. And I want to give you another example. In March 2022, Russian propaganda television reported that Kharkiv, one of the biggest cities in Ukraine, has been sheltered with missiles from Kremenchuk. And it is completely absurd. The journalist of Kremenchukska Gazeta found out the truth. At first, the missiles cannot couldn't reach Kharkiv from the Kremenchuk, and secondly, the unit itself had already been redeployed and was performing tasks in the combat zone. So the Russians tried to tell their brain-shaped viewers that Ukrainian troops were shooting themselves, but you can understand that it's not true. And in the case of destruction of Amstor shopping center, it was a big tragedy last year when big center was destroyed in the middle of the day by Russian missiles. So in this case, Russian propaganda reported that a military base was located there and that no civilians were injured after its destruction. In reality, at the end of June 2022, the Russian army attacked not a military base, but an ordinary shopping center, crowded with innocent people. As a result, 22 people were killed and about 60 people were injured. This is a great tragedy not only for our city but for all the world. And the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, released a video of moment how Russian missile is hitting Kremenchuk. He wrote, "We have all evidence of what the Russian military is doing against our people. They wanted to kill us, as many people as possible, in a peaceful city, in an ordinary shopping center," said the President. So in memory of those who died in the store, a memorial park was established in our city and trees were planted. There are many other examples in Ukraine, and I think we must not forget Russian crimes, the victims of this war, and we must fight against the lies that Russia spreads all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks a lot for invitation. I'm Irina Synelnyk, a journalist from Chernihiv, a city, Ukrainian city, which is located in the north of Ukraine. Before the war started, I lived and worked there. And now I'm taking part in the international program Residence in Kosovo and currently living and working in Pristina. So I have been working for the international agency UNIAN so many years, and I have my own experience of influencing Russia propaganda for journalists and different media in Ukraine. First of all, I'd like to tell that propaganda is part of Russia's state policy. The Russian state and state-controlled media have shared not only disinformation, but real lies about Ukraine and Ukrainians. There is no doubt that Russia propaganda works very well, and they do not hesitate to use any tools and methods. While simple is fine for local audience, for Ukrainians and Europeans are keen on more sophisticated means of manipulation. I would like to emphasize that Russia is using Ukrainian media, especially journalists, as a tool of black propaganda with fake news. So I want to share my own experience. During the ongoing war in Ukraine, I was digitally attacked by unknown people to link my name to fake news. I believe that those who did that represent Russia's interest, and those facts are not only a risk for professional reputation of journalists, but also a threat to the national security of country. At the end of last summer, I received a message from my fact-checkers colleagues at Behind the News, a project that focused on disinformation and fake news. They sent me links to several articles signed with my name, but I was shocked because I did not write these articles. And to my surprise, the website using my name was fake, but it looked very similar at the original. The colors, fonts, design, and visual were the same. The articles were written by someone who was fluent in Ukrainian. It was not a Google translation. We know that in the early days of the war, Russian propaganda materials were translated by Google's translation tools, and they contained so many errors and ambiguities. But the page I'm talking about were produced very professionally. The fake site focused on problem in the Ukrainian army and negotiation with Russia. There were also reports about the black market trade in Ukraine, children's organs, corruption in Ukraine, the cessation of arms supplies by Western allies. There are very sensitive issues that affect not only Ukrainians but Europeans as well. I appeal to the security service of Ukraine, the cyber police, and the National Union of Journalists of Ukraine to shut down those sites. And fake sites are blocked, but I know that new one appear. Ukrainian media lawyer Igor Raskladai, who helped me in my case, noted that internet technology is a popular tool of Russia's propaganda, where a copy of popular websites or the section that is supposed to be simulated is falsified. If you go to this site, all the links are real. Even if you go to the links without the page, you can go to the original site and the author page. The only thing that makes it obvious that this is a fake is the extension of the domain name. The main purpose of cloning is to discredit the media and journalists by luring you to false publication. Because those clones have been shared on Facebook as an advertisement. I know that not only Union has had a fake site, but other Ukrainian media too, such as the Ukrainian Pravda, RBK, Obozrevatelь, ONN, and others. Moreover, this big international disinformation campaign dealt with the media of European countries and the USA too. The name of this campaign that was established in 2022 is the Doppelganger. First, it targets Ukraine, Germany, France, and then the United States, with the aim of undermining support for Ukraine in Russia's invasion of the country. In summer of 2023, Russian service copied the website of Fox News, the Washington Post, and the NATO website. This campaign also manifested itself during the Israeli-Palestinian war. As the narratives of the campaign are all aligned with the Russian propaganda. The aim is to serve the Kremlin's narrative primarily to weaken Western support for Ukraine. Despite the efforts of fact-checkers in different countries, the doppelganger operators remain unidentified and therefore continue a continuing threat. I'm sure that time critical thinking and the media literacy is our superpower against Russian propaganda. The information front in hybrid warfare is complex and sometimes based on emotion, but it requires a considerable mental work. I believe that not only journalists, but everyone needs to pay attention to the text and resort primary sources. Thank you for your attention.
I will continue with the same call. So I think Vladyslav Havrylov is next to talk more about the current situation in Ukraine and how things are going there.
Good morning, dear colleagues. Glad to see you all. I'm Vladyslav Havrylov. I'm a researcher in the project Ukrainian Fair Army, and I'm a research fellow of Georgetown University, collaborative on global children issues. And I want to tell you some facts about disinformation, about especially effects of forcible deportation, militarization, and Russification of Ukrainian children, and how Russia Orthodox Church and collaborative Russia Orthodox Church with Serbian Orthodox Church are helping in a war against Ukraine. And in some facts, if I could share to you my screen and share you some examples. Yes, you could say that. In this map, you could see a map of Soviet concentration camps, because after full-scale invasion, if you know, Russian forcibly deported more than 2.8 million people from Ukraine, especially hundreds of thousands it's Ukrainian children. And in Soviet times, Russian governments do the same practice, but in nowadays they try to forcibly deport Ukrainian peoples to Russia. In this map, you could see Soviet concentration camps, but in next slide you could see modern detention centers. It's like temporary accommodation centers where Russia tried to put Ukrainian people, try to put Ukrainian children, and try to have no chance to come back in these children to home. In this slide, you could see facts of forcible militarization of Ukrainian children. This organization named Young Army, it's a paramilitary organization centers, what was created by Minister of Defense of Russia, Sergei Shoigu, and they try to put young people from occupied territories of Ukraine to Russian army to fight against Ukraine. It's a very dangerous situation, and as a result of this situation, you could see in next slide a portrait of young man from Donetsk who fight against Ukraine after this brainwashing, after Russian disinformation, after Russian propaganda. And you could see an official website, Children of War. In this website, you could see a number of children who are identified that these children are forcibly deported from Ukraine to Russia. And at least number is 19,546, and only 388 children are come back into home. It's a very hard point to come back in these children to home. And in this slide you could see war criminals who are involved in process of forcible deportation of Ukrainians. And when we speak about influence of some of Serbian activists, especially from Serbian Orthodox Church, you could see in next slide a meeting in Serbia. It's a pro-Russian meeting. And in next slide you could see a rector of some of university in Montenegro, but this rector tried to flood pro-Russian propaganda. They tried to flood pan-Slavic and pro-Russian propaganda to Montenegro society and to Serbian society. And as a result of this disinformation and propaganda, you could see media from Serbia use disinformation that Ukraine has attacked Russia. Not Russia attacked Ukraine, but Ukraine attacked Russia. It's a disinformation too, but for a victim. It's a result of same practice of this reactor. And in last slides, you could see especially a Serbian paramilitary organization named Serbskie Chetniki, and they are involved in process of war against Ukraine. And that's why the disinformation in this field is so dangerous for Ukraine, and it's so dangerous for European society too, because if we couldn't stop this practice, it's very dangerous from other European countries, and we should immediately stop this disinformation practice and this propaganda. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much for this.